Welcome to the Flourish.Academy podcast. My name is Heather Lautinen, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host Mara Chick. We believe everyone can be successful in any endeavor they pursue, whether it's personal or professional, by constantly nourishing your mind. Reading books, you can impart wisdom and tactics into your life and business. In this podcast, we will be discussing the books that have impacted us and share actionable strategies at the end of each episode to help you succeed.
So keep running, driving in your car, doing whatever you're doing. We're reading so that you don't have to. So today we are beginning our journey into Write It Down, Make It Happen by Henriette Klauser. I want to say that because in my mind she's German.
Oh, it's possible.
And I'm going to say Klauser.
Knowing what you want and getting it.
It's her last name is spelled Klauser, just in case anyone's looking at her. Does she look German?
I was just looking at that. I'm not sure.
It says she lives in Washington. Nice try, Mara.
Yeah, PhD. I have a lot of German. And
I'm sorry, Henriette, if I offend you with my German.
Okay, so the book opens with this quote by Napoleon Hill. He's the author of Think and Grow Rich. It says, "I worked for a menial's hire, only to learn dismayed that any wage I asked of life, life would have willingly paid." Okay, in other words,
can you interpret?
Right. Whatever you ask for life, from life, you will get. Mm-hmm. So if you say to life, "I need more money," I could throw a quarter at you and say, "Okay, there, you got more money." But if you said, "I need $1 million," well, that's a different question. So what he's saying is life will give you exactly what you ask of it. And that's fascinating. So why not aim higher is what I'm thinking.
Yes. She says in the introduction, what you want in life can make your dreams come true, but write down your goal. And we've heard this story a lot. The Jim Carrey story with a check. What did he write a check for? Himself for $1 million?
$10 million.
$10 million.
It was $10
million. And he put it in his wallet, and guess what? Cash
it
that
was,
check.
And it said for services rendered.
Yes.
And he put it in his wallet, and it was all crumpled
They
and
quote
terrible.
that a lot in a lot of the books we read. Okay, so we're going to dive straight into chapter 1. So we are on page 29 of the book. Do not be afraid of wanting too much. Write down even those ambitions which have no practical means of accomplishment. Keep on writing, write from your heart, and make the list as long as you would like. She continues on page 30. Give yourself permission to dream and to be totally unrealistic. So, it's time, okay? I feel like when we start to, think about what we want out of life, we limit ourselves. We're like, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to write that down. Well, just write it down anyway. You never know what might happen.
Right, because what if it did?
What if it did? Wouldn't it be great? So I actually had this list I've started writing about 108 dreams.
Why?
And
I'm sorry, why 108?
I don't know.
Okay, right on.
There's some kind of number and something. You could research it, I think.
Okay.
I don't know.
I have 100 dreams, so I was just wondering if there was a
reason.
reason.
I'm only at number 11 because I kind of started running out of things. But when I write my dreams list, I don't say I want, because it comes from a place of lack. You're thinking oh, you don't have that. So I always say I have. I have an apple orchard. I don't even really love apples, but I like the way apple orchards look when they're blooming,
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I live in a log cabin house. I've always wanted to live in a log cabin house. Or I have a house on Lake Chautauqua. I've always wanted. Right. So it's I'm putting it in the present tense. I have
it already happened.
Yes. So don't limit yourself.
And make them
dreaming.
Unrealistic and crazy. Because what if?
What if?
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah,
your dreams can become reality.
So we give everyone a challenge.
What's the biggest dream you could ever think of yourself?
And write it in the comments. I'd love to hear.
Yeah.
For me, I have on mine, I own a retreat center, a homestead lodge and retreat center where people come and I teach them things.
Okay.
I don't know what things.
You don't know what. And at your retreat center, I run annual retreats. That's number 5 on my list.
Perfect. So they work together.
Yes.
That's perfect.
Aww.
You may use my retreat center.
For free?
That I don't have. Yeah.
For free? I think I heard you slide that in there.
Right. Okay. Back to the book on page 32. I love this. She has coined this term called go incidences, and she writes it with exclamation points, because what happens, okay, so let's say you write down one of these big dreams and then it happens. It actually comes to fruition. A lot of people will look at that as a coincidence. And they will say it's an isolated event that's easily chalked up to luck or happenstance. So, oh, that was just a coincidence. Where Henriette is saying, nope, it is not. It is a go incident, and that is a part of a pattern. Such events are a signal, a sign. Go incidences carry the forward motion of a green light, the final syllable urgency of a referee at the track. On your mark, get set, go. C.J. Young called it synchronicity. When events coincide in a serendipitous way, some call it messages from the universe or cosmic connections. It is the sense that you are not alone and that your life, no matter how it may seem at any particular disastrous moment, is part of a larger plan. And essentially writing it down sends a notice to the universe that says, hey, I'm ready. And go incidences are signs that send a message back. I got your signal, and I'm working on it.
Did you know this happened to us recently? Do you remember? You probably don't remember
tell
what
me.
it was.
Yes.
So I think I came to you for like my year-end like goal setting session, which I always do like a goal setting session with you for my life and business. And you had just gotten back from some kind of retreat, I think, and you were like, I know what you're going to be doing with your life. And I was like, well, wait, I'll tell you. So all these goals, I said, Heather, all these goals I'm setting up for 2018 are going to get me to my goal in 2019 of running a Women's Day like event where I'm like giving talks and there's breakout sessions and there's other speakers. And she's like, I had the same, like, you are going to be running. And that was like, oh, synchronicity right there. Like, it's like, okay, universe, like I heard you, Mara, and
it's happening.
I'm working on it.
Noted. Write it down. Make it happen.
Hello. You might think this book is all frou, ha, 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 write it down. But honest to goodness, this is like this.
It's almost insanity.
It's insanity.
It's happened to us a couple of times with smaller things as well recently, where we're like, our eyes get really big and we say to each other, that is synchronicity. And that is insane that we were thinking the exact same thing. No, yeah, we work together a lot. But listen, so a lot of people would chalk that up to a coincidence where we're like, nope.
Ain't nothing.
No, there's nothing
So she says on page 34, once you write down a goal, your brain will be working overtime to see you get it and will alert you to the signs and signals.
Let's talk about my favorite part of the brain. Thank you. It's called the reticular activating system, what you're referring to, the RAS, R-A-S.
You talk about this a lot.
All the time.
Yes.
The reticular activating system sends the urgent stuff to the active part of your brain and sends the non-urgent to the subconscious. The RAS awakens the brain to consciousness and keeps it alert. So essentially it tells you what to pay attention to. Tony Robbins always says this. If you buy a car and say a blue Toyota Camry, then all of a sudden you start seeing it everywhere. Okay, it was always everywhere. It's just now your brain is paying attention to it. That's the reticular activating system. You have to alert the RAS what it is you want it to pay attention to so that it can find it. That's the point of writing it down. You activate that system, and then your brain, on your behalf, will constantly be scanning the environment to look for a clue or an opportunity that leads to that end goal. And it is so powerful. I love the RAS.
You love the RAS.
I do.
You're always talking about
I am. Are you activating your RAS?
Are you RAS?
Yeah.
How's your RAS doing today?
Yep. I do say that.
It's like, you use the same example for photographers. Like, you didn't realize that photographers were everywhere until you decided to become a photographer. We've always been around.
I hear this all the time.
You just didn't notice.
So I've been teaching photographers for 15 years at this point, and they all say to me, Heather, the market is so saturated. It's flooded. There's photographers everywhere. And this is a brand new photographer telling me this. And I listen empathetically, and then I say, that's always been the case. You're just now noticing because you're into it. They have always been there. It's always been a saturated market, but guess what? I have great news. There's room for everyone. There's enough clients. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to jump to page 51, which is the start of chapter 3. And she says, once you start writing your goals down, the brain will send you all kinds of new material, innovative, energizing ideas for planning out and expanding those ambitions. That is the good news. Now for the bad. You will forget the best of the plans and ideas if you don't come up with a system for recording and reviewing them. Oh my gosh, I don't want to forget anything.
Do you ever have that happen where
Yes.
you had a great idea?
I had a great, all the time. If I don't have my notebook with me to write it down or my phone to put in, like, to send myself a voice memo or something, and I get so frustrated, and then I'm sitting there thinking, what was that? It was so
know
good.
it was good,
so
right?
good. It was so good. And I can't remember it.
I hate that.
I hate it. So
That
that's why I
happens
always
to
have a
me.
notebook now in my purse wherever I go.
Because she goes on to say, it's not a question of getting the opportunities. It's a question of noticing that the opportunities are there. There are opportunities swirling all around you, and you're not paying attention to them because they might not matter to you in this moment, specific opportunities. But if you write something down that you want and you activate your RAS, you'll notice those opportunities. By the way, they've always been there, but you'll notice them, and then you can take action on them. I love that. But you have to write it down.
Yes. You can't just, I'll remember that later. No, you won't.
No, you
I
won't.
promise you won't.
You won't.
All right. Where are we moving to now?
We're on chapter 4, I believe, already.
Okay, so we're going to move to page 68 now. If you guys, I really encourage you to read this book. I mean, I encourage you guys to read all the books that we discussed, but she uses a lot of stories and examples from people that have written stuff down, and stuff has like magically come to them. Well, not magically, because we put a lot of work into it. But we're not going to read most of these stories because they're all throughout the book. But to drive her point home, she really showcases these stories and highlights how writing stuff down made it happen. Okay?
And they're good. Pick it up. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, on page 68, she starts talking about visualizing her desire. She says, to further quote Hill, that's Napoleon Hill, no one is ready for a thing until he believes he can acquire it. The state of the mind must be belief, not mere hope or wish. Okay, can I drive that further? No hoping and wishing, okay?
Right.
I'm not just going to sit there and, oh, that's a good idea. I hope that happens someday. Maybe. Oh. And meanwhile, everyone else has decided to write it down. Well, it's happening for them.
Right.
And not you. Well, I wonder why. Get your journal out, get a piece of paper, start writing it down.
And you have to believe it.
Do you keep a separate list of?
I do. I have lists of all kinds of things I want.
I like I remember when you were building your home, like you had the plans and everything, you looked at it every day. Do you think that helped, having that kind of visual for you?
This is a great example. We live on a homestead currently of 35 acres. Prior to that, we lived on 0.25 acres in what I call the city.
Which is not the city.
It was a little neighborhood in the suburbs. But I remember walking this property and saying to everyone in my family, wouldn't it be great if we could build a house here in the middle of the woods? And they all laughed at me. Now, they support me and they're good-natured, but they said, okay, how are you going to get a road? What about electricity? What about water? How, utilities? And I said, I don't know how. That's not the point. I want a house in the middle of the woods and I want chickens. And people do it. And I distinctly remember this because Evan was a baby. He's 10 now. He was a baby. He was on my hip and I was just dreaming. And I looked around and I actually forced all of us in a circle to hold hands and pray about it. And I think they thought I was a little wacky. And then I went home and I wrote it down and I had pictures. And again, I didn't picture this house in particular. It wasn't that specific. I just wanted to live in the woods. And so here we are 10 years later, and it took the better part of 7 or 8 years to make all of that happen because the hows were indeed complicated. But I believed that it was possible. And here we are. I think people don't believe it's possible. So like we're looking at your list of 108 dreams. I know that you believe those are possible. I know you do. But there are a lot of people who will write down dreams that seem so out of the stratosphere that they really just don't believe they're possible. What would your advice be to that?
Nothing is impossible, and your own mind is limiting you from getting what you might want in life, Like, it is okay to let yourself dream. I feel like we hold ourselves back way too much because we don't want to be disappointed if it doesn't happen. Like, are all 108 of these things going to come true? Probably not. But I believe that they can.
It's possible.
It's possible, and I can learn anything that I need to learn to build a log. Well, I don't want to build a log cabin house, but
pay someone.
I could pay somebody to do it. But like our own insecurity and doubt is holding us back.
Yes.
So I say just let it go. Like write it down, even if it seems ridiculous. Write it down and say like, yeah, I can make that happen.
Why can't I be on a
Why
private
can't
jet?
I? Yeah,
to all
we
my
can find a way.
vacation destinations. Why
It's
not?
easier these days to get on a private jet than
Right.
it was 20 years
Right.
ago.
I actually wrote somewhere, I don't think it was own a private jet. I think I wanted to just have access to a private jet. And then I read an article, might have even been in Success Magazine, where there are these companies that lease out hours on private jets. So you essentially own a portion of a private jet. So that you're
So
not
technically you own a private
Yeah.
jet. That's all I heard.
right. Basically,
Technically you own a private jet.
Yeah.
Okay. You are a high roller. I'm so sorry. May I borrow your jet?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, wouldn't it be awesome to fly private instead of commercial?
Yeah, when you go to Italy.
Yeah.
Like
Why do people limit themselves and think that that's not a possibility? Is it expensive? Could it be difficult to attain? Sure, but people do it.
everyone does it.
Yeah.
Like you don't think like people had dreams, all these successful entrepreneurs who are now flying
On their
all
private
over the
jets.
world, have houses in Bali. Do you think they didn't dream? Oh, they did. We could let me add that to the
Yeah,
list. A
please
house
do.
in Bali.
A
I
house
have a house in Bali. Okay. I live in crystal blue water.
Okay, we're going to move on to chapter 4 and page 91. Okay, this is going to feel like we're switching gears because in the book, Henriette talks about writing down fears. Also, so write down your goals, your dreams, your vision. And then she talks about why should you write down what you fear? So she is recounting a story. Again, you need to pick up the book. The stories are fantastic. They're great illustrations. But she said, I asked Janine why she thinks writing down her fears about going to Europe made a difference. Writing down your fears, she explained, takes negativity and anxiety out of the gut. The only thing it creates there is indigestion. So what she's saying is when you write down your fears, you can emotionally deal with them and give them light so that they seem less intimidating, I guess. Okay, I have mixed feelings about this.
I know you have it. Yeah, you have a different feeling than I do.
Because
about
I
this.
don't want to write down my fears because I don't want them to come true.
No, you don't like to focus on the negative.
I don't.
And for me, I think about it as like I'm having a conversation with myself to desensitize myself from that fear. You know what I mean? Like fear holds a lot of people back. I know you are very fearless.
For the most part. Because I know that whatever I do, I'm not going to die.
Yeah. And I mean, I have fears. I'm not going to lie. There are things that terrify me, but like if I can write stuff down and talk myself down from a ledge, it doesn't seem so impossible to me.
It helps.
Yeah.
Minimize.
So I really just think it's like a journaling for you. Like for me, is journaling and writing a letter to myself. That's like, this is unrealistic. Like your fear, this is not going to happen to you. What's the worst that could happen? Someone says no to you or like, we're so worried about that.
Right.
But,
So you like this?
I do.
Yeah.
I really do because I feel like you can work through a lot of stuff psychologically when you write it down and release it.
All right, that's
But it's
good.
not like you're sitting there reading it all the time and like I don't want you writing out your fears and then like reading them all the time and be like, "Oh god, that's going to happen." No.
Yeah.
It's like writing it down, having a conversation with yourself, recognizing and then releasing.
Oh, very well said. Okay, I'm going to take this under advisement and maybe try this. So I get what you're saying. You're not reviewing it constantly like you are your dreams,
Yes.
which you want to happen.
Because I want those to happen.
So you're writing them down so that you can talk yourself
through it.
and see that it's
Recognize
not as bad.
it. Because see, here's the thing with fear is that we don't want to recognize that it's there. So we like swallow it down
Yes.
and then it just builds and builds and builds because we keep swallowing and swallowing and swallowing. And then it explodes and that's when we get panic attacks and anxiety issues and all that kind of stuff. So I think when you recognize it and you're like, okay, I have a fear around this. It might be unrealistic. Let me just like talk this through to myself.
Deal with it.
And it
it's
really
better.
helps. Yeah.
That's good advice.
Even when I have thanks.
Yeah, that's good
Thanks.
advice.
I guess I was kind of smart there.
You
Was
were
I
very
smart?
smart there because when I first read that, I thought,
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
had-
doing it.
You were like, no.
I'm not writing
You
down my
had
fears.
that like, you remember with the compound effect when he started talking about, what was it? Expectations. And I just immediately shut off. That's how, well, you didn't immediately shut off like
But
I
that's
did,
how I
but
felt about
That's how you
fear.
felt.
Yeah.
Like you didn't want to
I don't
do
want to
it.
even acknowledge it, but the
Okay.
truth is a lot of people need to work through
Yeah,
it.
you have to
Yeah.
acknowledge it because
Yeah.
if you don't, you're just gonna see it doesn't hold you back. If your fear holds you back, you really need to focus on like
Sure, and
what the root of it is.
I think a lot of women specifically struggle with that, with the
Yeah.
fear. At least the women that I work with. That's
Yeah.
been my experience.
Yeah, you guys need to invest in a good journal.
Yeah.
I have journals everywhere.
Yeah, and just write it out.
I feel bad for whenever I die and someone picks up those journals and they're like, what the heck was going on with Mara? Oh my God.
Holy moly.
Holy moly. Woo! Okay, so we're going to end this episode here. Just a couple strategies for you guys. Now, clearly this book's title is very clear. Write it down, make it happen. And Henriette does give you some like activities that you can do in the book. So these are coming directly from her, not from me. Usually I make up the strategies, but these are from her. She says, writing a full-fledged description of what you want is one way of saying you believe that it's attainable and you are ready to receive it. So write what you want.
I want a retreat center on my property.
You have a retreat center.
I own a retreat center.
Yes. And so and I want you to come from a place of I already have, not I want. Because I don't want you to come from a place of lack. That was mine, those aren't her words there. Okay. And this is the other thing. When things are not happening as fast as you would like, ask through your writing, what more do I have to learn? What is the lesson here for me? Okay, because I think, we live in an Insta society. We talked about this with the compound effect, and we just want everything now. And these things are not, am I going to have a house on Lake Chautauqua tomorrow? No, I'm not. But what do I need to learn? What steps do I need to take to get there? Like, there's something I have to do to get, if that's what I want. So if it's not happening as fast as you want, just start to, write to yourself. Like, what do I need to learn? Just quickly, sorry. I've blogged on the Flourish.Academy site about my think day. And I just list out all these topics that I just want to sit and think about. And I have a conversation with myself. Actually, it's a blank piece of paper with the topic on the front. And I just write to myself. And I end up getting to the end of it. And I'm like, this one thing was this was a while ago, become a body positive activist. And I was having this conversation with myself. And at the end it said, you have more work to do on yourself first.
Wow.
And it was like, oh, okay. I didn't know that's where it was going to lead. That was just me writing and talking to myself.
So a stream of consciousness type
Yes.
thing.
And it was like, at first it started like, okay, how? Like, where would I learn how to do this? Are there organizations that give you certifications? What would this do for me? How would it help others? Am I ready? And then it started to come out that I had work to do on myself.
That is profound.
Isn't
the way
it?
that happened.
It's powerful. Writing it down, and
that would not have happened if you were just thinking it through.
I would not have consciously come up with that.
Wow.
So yeah, and now I did some work on myself, and guess who's going to be a body positive activist by the end of the year? This girl. Thank you very much, Henriette Klauser.
When did you read this book? It was a couple years ago.
It was a couple years ago. I think
too.
this was one of the ones that you had recommended to me right away.
This was required reading for my business and life boot camp that I was conducting at the time. So yeah, this was at least 3 or 4 years ago that I had people read it.
This is good stuff. Okay, Heather, as we wrap up today, what can everyone do to support this awesome podcast?
Well, first of all, support yourself. Hello. Go to Flourish.Academy and read Mara's show notes and grab the strategies, because action or intention without action is meaningless. You have to do something about it. Make sure you subscribe on all the podcast players, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you listen. Leave a review. That will be awesome. Yes. And if you'd like to watch this on video, you can go to flourishacademy.tv, share with your friends, and grab this book via our Amazon link. It helps to offset the podcast expenses.
Because we know you already shop on Amazon.
And this book is one of the ones you must pick up for the stories that are in it. Yes, the
stories are so good. In an upcoming episode, we'll talk about one story that really impacted me. So I can't wait to share that with you guys. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next time.